Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk, and today is a very special episode. Today I am going to talk to you guys about JT, JC, Chris, Joey, and Lance, otherwise known as NSYNC. Why, you ask? Right after the intro. Why did I kick this off talking about a popular boy band from the early 2000s? Well, it's because I have a very special watch with me today. And what this is a watch that not a whole lot of people even know about. It's the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Pop Odyssey from 2001. At a glance, it looks like a plain Jane 36mm Royal Oak, right? You've seen plenty of these around. But there's a lot more to this watch than catches the eye. The watch was released in 2001, or at least announced in 2001. I don't think it hit the shelves till 2002. To benefit the children affected by the World Trade Center attacks and the band's foundation challenge for the children. 2001, NSYNC did a concert to benefit their very foundation, and AP wanted a part of it, and they came out with a limited edition of two watches. One was the Premise, Ladies Premise, and the other one was this Royal Oak. So, as I told you, at a first glance, seemingly nothing special, seems like just another Royal Oak, but let me show you the back of the watch. You'll notice, and I'm not going to pretend to know which signature is which, but you'll notice 5 signatures in the back of the watch, engraved into the back of the watch, of all 5 members of NSYNC. But wait, there's more. The box, seemingly an old school Royal Oak box, right? Papers, but what's special about this particular box is the plaque that's on top of the box. I don't know if you guys can see that, but let me try that with my phone as well so you can get a clear picture. It says NSYNC Pop Odyssey Limited 2001 Edition. Again, you've seen limited edition Royal Oaks and offshores that have sort of a special plaque like the Montoya, the Barrichello, some of the other limited editions that you've seen before. But this is actually a little bit more special because this plaque is actually made from the piece of the stage that we're singing on. Again, just another gimmick to add to this already pretty special watch. All 5 of them, signatures in the back, part of the stage from the actual concert in 2001 on top of the box. Anytime any kind of celebrity, whether it's a sports celebrity, whether it's a boy band, or any kind of movie star, decide to put their name behind something for a good cause, and that foundation was a great cause. I was in New York for 9/11 myself. At the time, I worked at Deutsche Bank. I told you guys my story before, and we had offices in World Trade Center 4, as well as 130 Liberty Place. 130 Liberty Place, which is no longer there, was the building, if you remember, there's a famous picture with a building and a piece of World Trade Center stuck in it. That was our building as well. I was lucky enough to come out of that in one piece, and I gotta tell you, it was a hell of an experience. So a foundation like this is near and dear to my heart. It's for a great cause, and as a result, you get a great watch. They only made 50 of these. At the time, the stuff wasn't as hot. Kind of got lost in translation. Oddly enough, I managed to pick this watch up through a guy I met on YouTube, one of my followers. He in turn said, I want to get into the watch game. And he's kind of gotten into the watch game over the last few months out there, basically trying to buy things with my help. And this is one of the watches that he found. I told him to go out and buy it. I told him what price to pay. He made a profit. I ended up with this pretty special Royal Oak. If you're a collector of Royal Oaks, it's a pretty rare one. But at the same time, it's a very modest watch. Nobody would ever know that this is what you have on your wrist. Everybody would just think you have a small, plain Royal Oak. Next, I'm going to talk about another special limited watch. Maybe not as special as this particular Royal Oak, but it's special to me because it comes from my friends at East Coast Jewelry. You guys have seen me talk to Bobby on one of my blogs at the shows, as well as the vlog I just did in Miami. I was at Michael's store in Sunny Isles. Well, ECJ Luxor, as it's known now, East Coast Jewelry, has been around since 1986, and the year was 2006, probably one of the hottest times in the watch market ever. Right prior to that crisis hitting. And for their 20th anniversary, Bobby, it was his idea, it's Michael's son, he came out and he decided to come up with limited editions across various brands to celebrate their 20th anniversary. They did it with AP. It was the AP known as the Worth Avenue AP. They had a store on Worth Avenue. They also did a Hublot. They also did a Blancpain. And they also did a Ulysse Nardin, along with a Glashütte, I believe, as well. Basically, all the lines that they carry, they approach the manufacturer, say, hey, I want to do something kick-ass for our anniversary. And their color has always been yellow.
Yeah, they were all yellow.
And what I have here is a Maxi Marine Diver made for the 20th anniversary edition for East Coast Jewelry. Nothing different when it comes to nuts and bolts outside of any marine chronometer. Again, this is a certified chronometer and a limited edition of 100 pieces. And all they did is they took a normal production watch at the time and they put a yellow dial on it, but there was a little more to it. They also included a yellow rubber strap to sort of accent the yellow even more. I'm not going to switch the straps out right now, but you guys kind of can get an idea if I just simply put the strap next to the watch. It looks pretty cool on yellow. Now, at the time they made this watch, you could have bought it either on the bracelet or the rubber strap that you see here with the inserts. The insert on the rubber strap will have the limited edition writing. They did this for majority of their limited edition pieces, not just the East Coast Jewelry limited edition. It isn't something that became super collectible over time, although at the time it came out, it was selling close to retail because the market was just so hot, and so was Ulysse Nardin, especially in Russia and Ukraine and other former Soviet republics. So these things were selling like hotcakes. I remember a client called me up and said, hey, I want one of these, that watch that Bobby made. Can you get me one of these Nardins? I called Bobby, he's like, brother, as much as I love you, the best I could probably give you on this watch is 20 back. And I ended up selling that watch at like 15 off to a good client. So not a collectible per se. However, what I like about these type of editions, and East Coast Jewelry were not the only store that had limited editions made for them. A lot of these brick and mortar stores have great relationships with a lot of these companies, Nardin included, where from time to time they will make a limited edition specifically for that store. But what that does, I feel like, to the general public, if you're out there and you're a fan of the Marines from Ulysse Nardin, for example, this is an opportunity for you to just get something different, right? Normally these watches came with a white dial, black dial. I remember them making it in a slate dial, which I think is like the best looking one, right? It's sort of that gray color that sort of matches the entire watch. But this just provides an average collector, for around $5,000, I think these are trading right now, to basically have something different. So when you walk into a room, everybody will say, well, wait a minute, I've never seen an Nardin such as this. Most people will probably ask you, hey, did you change the dial on it or something? Because a lot of people won't know about this particular watch. Again, they only made 100 of them, and this was back in 20th anniversary. They opened in 1986, or 2006, right? But as I was saying, it's once again just an opportunity for an average collector to get out there and get something slightly different without breaking the bank. Some of the hottest stuff like Richard Mille or AP or Patek, you can't touch their limited edition stuff. So you're paying gazillion dollars. Even at the time when this first came out and as hot as the market was, you still managed to get that watch at a discount. I'm sure Bobby discounted these watches to his good clients just the same. Don't quote me. I think it may have been $9,700 at the time. Again, I don't remember exactly. And they were trading around that $7,500 price range. And they still hold their value pretty decent, trading at the $5,000 mark, if you ask me, considering its original retail price. A comparable watch today obviously retails for more because time has passed. But again, not even this particular piece. The reason I brought this on is just to show you guys that if you actually want to get out there and get something unique, look for those limited edition store pieces or certain boutique pieces from various brands. All brands across the board have done something like this at one time or the other for a particular store. And you can get out there and find yourself something that no one else will have without actually having to break the bank, if that makes sense. And speaking of the crisis of '08, right, just before 2008, Zenith came out with their first rectangular or squarish type of watch, and that was the Zenith Port Royal Open. Had the crisis not happened, I think this watch would have been a lot more popular. Everything about the watch was very well thought out by Zenith. Now remember, Zenith as a watch manufacturer has more than 1,500 first observatory prizes in chronometry, so this is their thing. These guys know what they're doing. And they found a way to show off the watch and to show if it's moving in a very unique way. Outside of the beautiful El Primero movement being shown through the back, they came out with this little window. And many people at first thought, oh, wait a minute, did they come out with a tourbillon? No, they didn't come out with a tourbillon. This is just their way of showing off the movement from the front with this little window. Hence it's called the Zenith Port Royal Open. As far as the design is concerned, if you notice the vertical lines of this particular watch, the beveled edges around the entire case, this is all well thought out. It goes extremely well with the vertical lines on the dial, and everything on this watch, including the open window, screams rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. And that was just their way of saying, look, if we're gonna make a rectangle watch, if this is gonna be our first rectangle watch, let's do it in a very nice fashion where everything sort of punctuates the rectangular shape. The chronograph buttons on the side do exactly the same thing. I like the finish of this watch, and I love the strap that they put on this particular watch. The brushed titanium finish is also pretty kick-ass if you ask me. As I mentioned, this is the famous El Primero movement. This is the 4021B, I believe, that's inside this particular watch. It is unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because Zenith is a great company, been around since 1865. The resale value in Zenith, as you guys already probably know, is not all that great. The watch originally retailed for $16,000, and because the financial crisis hit right after it came out, they sort of went down in value, they weren't selling, and you saw a lot of merchandise dumped out of the market at closeout pricing. Today you're gonna find this watch out in the market, depending on its condition, how complete it is, anywhere from $35,000 to $5,000, which again makes it a steal. Legendary movement, beautiful design, somewhat iconic for Zenith. Again, very much overlooked due to the timing it came out. But for a chronograph, power reserve, El Primero movement, you know, let's say an average of $4,000, I believe it's a great deal. I also will say it again, I feel that it's a shame. A lot of the Zenith watches out there are so undervalued that it just completely blows my mind. But you know what? That's the benefit you as a watch collector get if you can appreciate the company, appreciate the movement inside this particular watch, and appreciate the overall avant-garde look for Zenith, if you ask me. So, in either case, guys, that comes to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I always try to show you something special. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to show you a $500,000 watch, as I often try to do. So there are pieces out there that don't break the bank that can be just as special as a $300,000 Richard Mille. It's just up to you to decide whether you have an acquired taste for pieces such as these. And I guess it's only fitting that I end the show by saying bye, bye, bye. See you next week for more watch reviews and other videos.